Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Thank everyone for coming. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Chambers, if you would call roll, please.
Mr. Nichols. Here. Ms. Pritchard.
Here.
Mr. West.
Here.
Mr. Ross.
Here.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. First up, we have approval of the minutes of the regular meeting from April 19th, 2022. If I could get a motion and a second, please.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the
I'll
April
second.
19th regular meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Thank you, Ms. Pritchard. Are there any comments, questions, changes to be made to those minutes? Hearing none. Mr. Chambers?
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard.
Aye.
Mr. Nichols.
Aye.
Mr. West.
Yes.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additions, removals, or modifications to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Ross and Mr. Nichols. Mr. Chambers?
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Mr. Nichols.
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard.
Aye.
Mr. West. Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sable, I think we can start with you whenever you're ready.
I would like to open up tonight with our strategic plan presentation. So I'd like to ask Mr. O'Cole if he could key that up. And I'm actually, this is important, so I'm going to go up to the podium tonight. He needs to hear this. Do you need to get out of here?
I'm running concessions, but it's fine.
Okay.
Sorry.
Concessions are important. We do have a presentation tonight from Justin Brantner. He's a science teacher at the high school, and his class, which is a great, awesome class, was one of my favorites to teach as a science teacher. Has a nice donation, I think $1,000 on the agenda tonight. So Justin came to talk a little bit about the donation.
Perfect, thank you. So I wanted to try something a little different this year. So I teach human anatomy and physiology, and one of the things I wanted to do was to try to talk to my kids. I actually started this school year with them a little different with the first lesson, and at the end of the first lesson, I asked the kids to think all year long on what do they want their legacy to be. And at the very end of the year, I asked them the same question on for them to keep creating their legacy. And I think that's a very important thing for our kids to kind of realize. At the end of the day, that's what's ultimately going to matter, right? In terms of what do you leave behind. So around October, November, I asked my kids, all 5 of my sections of anatomy and phys, if they would be willing to try to raise funds for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. And of course, unanimously, all of them said yes. And what I was a big proponent of was talking to them about the impact that small efforts by one, donating small change, dimes, a couple quarters, any pennies whenever you have it, and then just turning it in every day. To kind of see that your small efforts by one collectively add to a bigger picture in the end. And that bigger picture was $1,000 raised by my kids. I couldn't be more proud of them. I really am impressed and proud of what they were able to do on this one. The reason I tried to get to the $1,000 was that you can donate that $1,000 to get a brick written on with different sayings and then donated to St. Jude's. And what I did for the kids was to put it up for a vote. I wanted them to pick what that brick should say. And we kind of picked the top 5, the kids voted on it, and at this point, pending approval. The $1,000 will go off to St. Jude's with a brick from Medina High School that says, "Never give up. We walk with you. Hashtag MHS. Together we swarm." So it was an interesting kind of end of the year in talking with them about the whole creating your legacy, that now that legacy is they get to see what their efforts kind of ended as. And it also leaves a legacy with Medina High School at St. Jude's. So I thought this fit perfect with an anatomy and physiology class for the research hospital. But like I said, I cannot express how proud of my students I am. This was something that was super awesome this year. So I just wanted to make sure to at least put the pitch in for them, that this was their efforts. And I wanted the board to kind of know what the donation was for. So.
And I can't say how proud enough I am of Dr. Brantner for what he's done with the human anatomy class, which is one of our Project Lead the Way classes, as well as with this project. And when we talk about Portrait of Graduate, and we're about to go over our strategic plan, in 21st century learning and teaching, this is the direction that we're looking at moving. And to take a human anatomy class and to move it beyond the classroom in this direction is one heck of an experience for our students. And I had mentioned that when I was a teacher, it was my favorite class to teach. I wish I knew how to teach it the way that he is teaching it. And it really is a model for other teachers in our high school. So thank
Appreciate
you.
that. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, this evening, we are presenting our new strategic plan to our Board of Education. This strategic plan actually spans 2 boards of education. So when you see the paper copy of this plan, you're going to see credit not only to current board members, but credit to past board members as well, as their involvement on committees throughout this process was vital. The name of the presentation tonight, Infinite Planning in a Finite World. I don't remember how we came up with that or where it came from, but it really is an ideal title because in education, we unfortunately are operating in a finite world when it comes to expenses, the amount of money we have, resources, but it doesn't stop what we're doing in terms of the planning and building of programs and academics for our students to ensure that they have the best possibilities available to them. Tonight, I'm going to take you through our past strategic plan, this was the final year of our past strategic plan. And then we're going to have our COPE members come up and talk about their different departments and their goals and initiatives moving forward for the next phase of their strategic plan. With our past strategic plan, it began in 2017 and ran through 2022. We worked off of our district mission and values and core mission in order to develop our plan. In working with our community and our staff, there was a lot of focus on the history of the district, opportunities that students once had. The district was just coming out of a very difficult time financially as well as with leadership within the district, and was looking to turn a corner and was excited about turning a corner. So much of our last strategic plan was really about rebuilding our future and rebuilding our direction from many of the things that our students in our district had had in the past. So student academics was a focus of the last strategic plan. We took a look across the district at opportunities that we wanted to make available to our students that were available in the past. Many of the programs, such as educational options at the high school as well as at the middle schools, the class sizes at the elementary buildings, had increased over the years due to financial reasons. The community and the staff and the students were very clear that these were things that were important to be addressed. So in this strategic plan, we made an effort to offer more classes, more class options in the district, as well as lowering class sizes. Our focus at the elementary buildings was to have lower class sizes at the lower grade levels, with slightly increasing as the children got older into the upper grade levels. In addition, we looked at where we needed to add classes, and we expanded things like the language offerings and elective offerings at the high school. Project Lead the Way and career preparation offerings is another important direction that we went when we met with our community. Preparing students for college and career readiness was a definite priority. So we were very strategic in the way that we offered new classes. It wasn't just about looking at what electives would be cool for students to take, but it was what electives would be cool for students to take and would help prepare them for post-high school. And not just post-high school and going to college, but post-high school and preparing them for life, career, military, whatever their next step might be. And the result of that is classes like what Dr. Brantner teaches. It's a human anatomy class, but the way he teaches that anatomy class is much more expansive than just memorizing the bones within the human body. It's studying systems, it's doing exploratory learning, it's answering questions, it's finding answers and solutions to problems. So it's going into 21st century learning and education. In addition, we also looked at our counseling staff and expanded our counseling staff to include a college and career counselor here at the high school. So that is a position that we added up here. In addition to that, we also have our students visiting job sites. In addition, we have our staff. Our high school teachers have had the opportunity to go out and visit local businesses, which has really been important because many educators, their experiences in education, they haven't had the opportunities to go out and work in the business world. So for them to go out and see a factory or to see a medical office and how they function has really been extremely important. In addition to that, we've also offered job shadowing opportunities for high school students. Community engagement. We want to continue to foster consistent and transparent communication. We have tried to reach out to the community in every avenue possible. Some of them have worked, some of them haven't. We've held community meetings throughout the community, small group gatherings at coffee shops, as well as at restaurants. We did some of them here right in the district. I think those seemed very successful at the beginning and then dwindled, where I think we were meeting with ourselves. So we kind of adjusted them over time and found different ways to do them. Eventually, now what we're doing is superintendent lunches, which have been regularly attended, and utilizing virtual meetings. That's much more convenient for our parents to attend rather than taking up part of a Saturday morning or a Saturday afternoon. In addition to that is the utilization of social media. Prior to the pandemic, we've also worked on engaging our senior citizens and going out to our senior community centers. And it's not only us going out to talk to the community senior centers, but it's also getting our students out to the community senior centers, whether it's having our choir perform during the holidays or having a small band ensemble. Obviously, with the pandemic, that's been more of a challenge recently, but that is something that we will re-engage once we're able to do that. The other thing that we have worked on is creating more unity in terms of our identity as a district. Behind Mrs. Parkhurst, we have the big M. And we have many symbols across the district that we utilize in order to recognize ourselves. And everybody's familiar with the B. We also have the honeycomb symbol. And we still utilize those, but we've really honed it down for the M to be our main identification. So when people see the oval M, they know that that means Medina City Schools. And that's something we're going to continue to do. Another piece of that, a direction we decided not to go, is we were looking at potentially branding. And we decided once we started looking into it that that wasn't a good direction for us to go. And the big reason was the cost. The legal fees in going about branding our B or branding our M, we felt was excessive, especially for the other goals that we wanted to accomplish. The other piece is we were made aware of concern in the community regarding community members' ability to use our M or to use our B, and that's something we didn't want to limit. There are times when we do have to limit that for various reasons, and we address that on an individual basis. But generally, we want our community to embrace and be able to use our symbols. With our facilities, we were really looking at a cost savings approach in terms of energy conservation. Our major project with the facilities was really looking at the lighting across the district. And this might sound like a small thing because you think of your household of going and changing light bulbs. But this was a major undertaking and project in the district where we transitioned the entire district over to LED and high efficiency lights, which was not just changing out light bulbs, but it was also changing out ballasts and lighting systems, sometimes when we didn't expect to have to, in order for those light bulbs to have to operate. And again, that was a big fiscal savings. We are continuing to watch the savings in terms of our efficiency. I know recent conversation that Mr. Chambers constantly brings up is turning off the lights. So it's something we will continue to be aware of. We do want to be an Energy Star rated district and have all of our buildings as Energy Star rated as we move forward. And in order to do that, it's about really engaging our school community. And like I was mentioning with Mr. Chambers, when you talk about things like turning off the lights, turning off the water, those are all things that we collaborate and do together in order to save energy. And with the finances, we want to have clear communication in terms of what our financial situation is in the district. During this strategic plan, we were fortunate to renew an emergency levy. We renewed the emergency levy as a permanent levy, which means it does not need to go back on the ballot. The reason why I'm calling it a renewal is because it wasn't for any new money. We made a promise to the community that we would not ask for new money until we were in a position that we need new money. We have been living off of savings for the past 5-6 years. We've been able to do that and still expand our programming. When I was talking about academics, some of the other programs we've added, besides extending services, are things like teaming, all-day kindergarten. Those were all major cost programs that were brought to the district without any new funds to the district or increasing tax dollars. We are looking at, as we move forward, using up those savings, and we promised the community when we transitioned the past levy that we would go at least 5 years. And we are looking at going beyond that 5-year period. Currently, we're looking at approximately a levy in 24, 25 for operating reasons. We are having discussions, as has been mentioned in here before, of potentially going early in 23, 24, depending on what happens with redistricting and the timing with a bond issue. But again, we're committed to not asking for money until we need it, and implementing programming with the money that we have and doing it in a responsible fashion. With our new strategic plan and the next steps, you'll see when our COAT team comes up and presents that we're looking at a little bit different direction. Where last time we really were looking at a rebuilding of programs across the district, we're looking at continuing the progress that's in place, and it's much more of maintaining the good things we have. We did do a community survey recently, and that community survey showed that more than 80% of our community felt very satisfied and comfortable with the direction that we were heading within the district, which is very positive. We were actually told by the third-party research firm that did that survey for us that they never see results that high for that item. So what that said to us as we went through this process, that it's very important that we stay the course. So that's exactly what we're looking at doing with the new strategic plan. The development of the new strategic plan consisted of a committee of almost 100 individuals. These individuals included students, staff, parents, board members, community members, business members, community leaders, and it was tied into our Portrait of a Graduate process. So they went hand in hand. Many of those meetings were done virtually because of the pandemic, and they consisted of both large group meetings, small group meetings, as well as community surveys. In terms of the portrait and the strategic plan, the portrait is our North Star. The strategic plan is how we're going to get there. So the strategic plan is really the tool that we're regularly going to be working with and regularly going to be visiting and updating on a regular basis to make sure we're meeting our goals of our Portrait of a Graduate. We want to expand the kind of programming you heard about at the beginning of the board meeting today. We do have our Portrait of a Bee in place, which is the Portrait of a Graduate. We are looking at expanding this further with the Portrait of an Educator, which we're actually looking at starting that process this coming school year. And eventually, we would like to look at a Portrait of a Hive. So a Portrait of an Educator is what a portrait of an employee within the district. We've outlined what the expectations are for all of our students as they move through our school district and as they graduate. We want to outline those same expectations for all of our employees that are working here within the district. And then Portrait of a Hive, this is a community thing, our school district. So it takes the joint effort of everybody involved. So the last piece of that is looking at the whole big picture. What does that look like with the community involvement within our school district and the community support for ultimately our students' success? So I want to introduce to you our goals and objectives, and I believe Tina Cassidy, our Director of Instruction, is going to explain the academic achievement and technology objectives. Thank you.
So, like Aaron said, our new strategic plan is kind of exciting because what we're doing is we're expanding on our last strategic plan. So the first goal under our academic achievement and technology objective is to create and offer students essential life skills opportunity through the curriculum, partner with businesses and organizations to create student internship and mentorship programming, and utilize community resources to more deeply impact student learning. So In our last strategic plan, we started that. We added electives at the high school that would help students with their essential life skills, such as we did a photography class. We also added financial literacy, which was something that our community really wanted us to look into. And we actually did that. Right now, the state is mandating that all districts do it. We did that back when we first started our strategic plan, so we were a little bit ahead of the game. So our students went from having economics to having financial literacy for a semester, and all students had financial literacy. So that was something that was exciting, and we're hoping to continue that and adding courses for students to help them expand their essential life skills. For example, one of the most exciting classes coming up next year is the cooking class, and I think that is full. So a lot of kids are excited to be able to take that at the high school next year. Another thing that we started last strategic plan was our CEO program, where students were able to take a semester-long internship in a field that they think they're interested in as a career, and we were able to get that rolling. We hadn't seen, we had about 20 kids every year take advantage of that. So we're looking to really expand that, and we're on a good path, because this year we have doubled that. So now we'll have 40 kids taking advantage of that, and we hope to continue that and continue to grow that, because it is such a positive experience. Another thing that we would like to do is expand our internship program to maybe something less rigorous than a semester-long course, and introduce some day shadowing opportunities for students. So we're hoping to bring that along next year as well. So those are some of the things that we're looking at, and we want to continue offering those kinds of experiences for kids. Our second goal was to advance curriculum instruction and assessment practices to engage all learners in problem-based 21st century learning, ensure consistent delivery of curriculum from classroom to classroom and building to building, and explore and expand service learning opportunities at all levels. So in our last strategic plan, 21st century learning, we were calling inquiry-based learning, and we started doing that. We put maker spaces in all the buildings. And we also started Project Lead the Way. We now have Project Lead the Way in every grade level, grades 6 through 10, or through 11, excuse me. And hopefully we'll be able to add the 4th class at the high school in the following year. So we're excited that we got that far. But our extended SOAR team has been working very hard, and we hope to continue to expand that in our new strategic plan, with having those experiences in all classrooms, and having teachers go into the maker space and use those materials and those methods with their curriculum. So we're excited about that. And then explore and expand service learning opportunities at all levels. We actually have a service learning class at the high school next year, which we had, I think, 35 kids participate in. And again, that's a great start, but we hope to expand that so more and more kids will be able to take advantage of those opportunities. So those are just some of the exciting things coming up in the academic achievement goal. And next I'd like to introduce Mina, and Mina is going to talk about Objective 3 under this goal.
So for objective number 3, we're looking to implement a consistent data review process to identify students who are academically at risk and enhance our resources and programming for at-risk students. So right now, the district has embraced multi-tiered systems of support for our students. We are implementing this pretty regularly and well at our elementary level. At our secondary level, we are in the process of implementing this. So we're really looking to add some consistency. We're meeting with our secondary teams at this time at building levels, and then just trying to strengthen our district-wide procedures in multi-tiered systems of support to make sure that we're catching our students and providing them with quality interventions at each tier.
And number 4 was to design and implement a district technology integration plan, which focuses on the utilization of technology as a transformative creation, advancement, and connection tool. So we, working with Curriculum and Tina, we developed a technology vision committee and we meet and discuss the future of where we want to go with the integration of technology into Medina City Schools. So we have that committee developed, and we're going to develop a 3-year plan for this portion of the strategic plan.
So our next goal is about climate, culture, and student wellness. And it's been an initiative in our district for quite a while, but we want to focus on mental health and student wellness. Regardless of COVID, mental health is essential for our students and our staff, so we want to continue this beyond just the COVID and beyond COVID and the pandemic. So our first goal is going to be to continue ongoing and targeted professional development for staff related to student and staff mental health and wellness best practices. And for that, again, there's many trainings we've been providing on trauma-informed care, trauma-informed practices, but we don't just want to train our staff about students, we also want to help our staff for our staff, and on adult care and how to take care of yourself as well. So those will be the 2 targeted areas for professional development. And then our second goal, we want to expand some of the groups we have in place and really look at a wellness task force that looks at wellness across the board, including student experiences, access to mental health services in our district, achievement expectations, and how do we make sure we're appropriately challenging students and giving them expectations that are achievable and not adding to mental health stress. And then talking with students, families, staff members, community members to engage them as well in this task force. And then once we get that task force, setting goals with them and then communicating what we're working on with the community as well. So again, in that way, we're engaging everyone in the community, including our students, to find out what we can do better as we continue to look at student wellness and staff wellness as well.
All right, the third goal is facilities, safety, and security objectives. And number 1 is to address applicable facilities and the infrastructure deficiencies via a comprehensive master facility planning process, including redistricting, engaging community stakeholders to determine priorities for potential new construction and or renovation opportunities. Provide facilities that maximize safety, comfort, student interaction, and learning. And we have a facilities committee that meets monthly to go over the goals for this plan. And then number 2 is to review all aspects of the physical and cybersecurity throughout the district and recommend changes in policies and applications of best practice strategies. Ensure consistent applications of security protocols, procedures in district buildings and events. So this is just a ongoing, we want to make sure that our students and our community members, when they come and visit, are safe and secure in our facilities.
Goal number 4. The first objective was to create financial assessment of future facility needs that coincides with the master facility plan that Ryan was talking about, and to provide community updates related to projected costs of potential projects, bond issues, and potential OFCC partnerships. What we want to do is we want to work with the administration, and we want to work on a yearly basis to look at the 5-year capital project plan and keep all the individuals involved knowing the costs that the capital projects will have. And we want to work with the administration to develop potential redistricting, operational, bond issue levy needs, and communicate such needs to our community. Objective number 2 is to identify key financial metrics to create a district performance scorecard and measure against like districts. If you go on the ODE website, you'll notice there's called a district profile report. You could look at each individual district and see how they compare financially. What we want to do is take that profile report and compare it to the like districts that ODE has for us, and compare certain information that they have and see how we're doing and with the comparison. And we want to do that on a yearly basis. And finally, there's create educational opportunities for citizens and stakeholders. And basically what this is to add another community member to our district finance committee. We're always looking for community members to get into the committee. We're also looking at adding another administrator to the committee. And this will allow more representation from the community and more representation from the administration. And we're looking to continue to provide timely information on school district finances to the Finance Committee on a semi-monthly basis. And we're also looking to participate in virtual community discussions once a quarter. Thank you.
So goal number 5 is internal and external communication. And underneath this goal, you'll note that there are 4 objectives that look very much like our previous strategic plan. But that just goes to show you how important communication is, not only internally, but more importantly, externally, so that our community understands what is happening throughout our district. So objective number 1 is to communicate effectively with community members who have no direct connection or affiliation to the district. Certainly this is something that we constantly try to work on, trying to reach people where they're at, and the mission is to try to figure that out. So the next part of that is to utilize stakeholder data to determine the most effective channels for community engagement. So that those 2 things kind of go hand in hand. So part of the mission in this particular strategic plan and this goal is to be more data driven and find out where people want to receive communication, how they want to receive communication, and again, so that we can meet people where they're at. And the other ideal about this too is that you certainly don't want to oversaturate your key audiences, so certainly being very cognizant of how much we're communicating, what we're communicating, and in what direction. Objective number 2 is to perform a comprehensive website audit to determine functionality and ease of information retrieval. Ensure all components of the district website are up to date and consistently monitored. Certainly this is a constant goal. Our website is probably one of the most important communication tools that we have. And to be sure that all that information is up to date is very important. As we kind of move through this new strategic plan, part of the mission with our website is to update it and hopefully make the information easily accessible. Objective number 3 is to foster, grow, and promote community relationships and collaborative community partnerships while serving as a central community hub. So people take a look at the district as a resource of information, not only from our student and staff body, but certainly as we're part of the community. So we want to effectively link to district support organizations, civil and service organizations, local businesses, and other stakeholder groups. And this was also a goal in our previous strategic plan. Again, just to keep that line of communication open. These are very, very important stakeholder groups that we need to reach. And objective number 4 is develop clear expectations for internal communication regardless of building or department, enhance protocol and workflow to establish consistent delivery of critical information. One of the goals that I've had for quite some time is to deliver a consistent message. And so this objective really follows with that, just the importance of everyone telling the same story. So as you'll note, a lot of these objectives really fit in with our previous strategic plan, but as Mr. Sable mentioned, we need to find different ways to do that.
As Amy mentioned, communication is something that carries over from the last time, so is staffing and human resources. It's always the top priority and objective for us is to implement a system of teacher support staff, substitute teacher, substitute support staff recruitment, and obtain the highest quality, diverse professional staff here at Medina City Schools. We, this year more than ever, kind of a combination with communication as we've tried to put that word out that we are looking for employees. We have a real shortage of support staff and substitutes right now. I don't know that I ever would have thought in my years here we'd be making commercials and having a billboard on I-71 or wrapping vehicles that drive around town as a mobile billboard to try to attract staff to our district. We're also, as far as working on diversity, we've partnered with some other community organizations, the county, the city. I think it's a goal of everyone here in Medina County is to bring a more diverse workforce to Medina, and certainly the schools. We're looking for that to better reflect our parents, our students. We have reached out to churches. We've reached out to some of our parents of our diverse student population to see if we could talk them into working here. So we're always trying. We're going to really focus on recruitment at the student teacher level and colleges and universities with education programs. So that's objective number one. The second is to create an implemented audit cycle to gauge operations and personnel capacity in the food service, transportation department, and custodial maintenance departments. The state of Ohio, the auditor's office offers a service called performance audits. And what that does is it will take your district and compare it to like districts that have similar demographic, similar size districts, and compare our square footage for how many custodians we have, how many meals we serve versus our staffing levels, and how many drivers we have, how many mechanics, how many bus runs we have, all of those things, and try to give you an idea of whether we're overstaffed, understaffed. Right now it'd be pretty easy to tell you we're understaffed in all of those areas on the support staff side, but it's just a best practice, and we used to do it about every 10 years, but we want to get back into that cycle of comparing us to other districts similar to ours. Thank you.
So goal 7 is something that's really important to all of us, and that's to look at the diversity, equity, and inclusion of our district. And so we'd like to form an advisory council that, again, similar to our mental health council, includes community members, students, and staff, as well as parents or guardians, to look at the promotion of inclusive practices in our district. So this committee will create goals and objectives to look over the things the district is doing and make sure that the vision of the district, the policies we implement, meet those needs of that group. So the group would start by forming and then looking at the various things we do in the district and then communicating those back. But again, the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion can't be understated. And so I think we want to start there by forming the committee, meeting, and then providing updates as we move along in those areas.
And as part of these goals, we are looking at expanding our participation in the SOAR program next year, and I anticipate that we're likely to be involved in human capital portion of the SOAR programming. So that's taking it to the human resources component in the district, as I had talked about earlier, which I imagine that Dr. Kwolek and Mr. Shields will be our leaders in the district with that portion of the SOAR program, which fits right along with our new strategic plan. So we've got a lot of exciting things coming. It's not big changes like we had with our last strategic plan, but it's building upon the great things we have in place. And I think if you talk to, again, most of our staff members or our students, they'll tell you they like what's going on, so we need to become better at what we're doing. And that's the goal of the current strategic plan. Any questions from the board? Our goal tonight is to present the plan to you. We're going to get this up on this presentation up on our webpage. And then my intent is to present the strategic plan to the board at the June regular meeting for adoption for the upcoming school year.
Thank you, Mr. Sable. And I want to thank everyone who contributed in presenting tonight. This is really exciting. I know I myself was looking forward to seeing the completion of our last strategic plan. I think it's a good reminder for all of us that a lot of great things were rebuilt, and it's nice to see that on the screen. And yes, we did this and we checked these things off, and it's exciting now to be moving on and just building upon all of that. I guess my question is, well, I have two questions. So the last one, it was very specific, and we had dates and deadlines. This one, I like how it feeds into our portrait of a bee. This is how we're going to go to get there. But how do we then, I guess, measure how we're doing these things?
We do have specific timelines. This is a 3-year strategic plan, and we have specific goals in the administrative section of the strategic plan. So there is another part of this strategic plan which we're going to share with the board, and we'd be happy to review with any community member that's interested. We purposely didn't keep it in the meat of the strategic plan because we wanted to allow for flexibility. One thing we learned from the last strategic plan is once you jump into an initiative, you can find that there could be different paths you can take, some that are better than others. So we wanted to allow for flexibility within this plan. So the board will receive the administrative guidelines included within the actual adopted plan as well.
Thank you. I do like that this does allow for flexibility because, like you said, we did not have that with the last one. So I think this is good. Thank you.
The next thing I wanted to share is actually off my list. For Memorial Day, we have a student group. It's actually a new forming student group. I think they're still working on finding their identity at the high school. But they are looking at putting flags out for Memorial Day up at the corner of the high school where the windmills were. And they have been working with the American Legion to have those flags donated. And the American Legion has donated approximately 3,000 flags to go out in the lawn. And they're not going to put all 3,000 out. I met with the students the end of last week, and they test ran putting some of them in and realized how hard it is to put the flags in the ground. But they're going to put a lot of flags out on the corner, and they're going to utilize those flags for upcoming holidays as well, such as the 4th of July. So I want to thank that group of students as well as the American Legion for sponsoring those flags and supporting those students in representing our country. We have many end-of-year celebrations coming up across the district, but tonight I want to point out our seniors. Our seniors did finish up their time here at Medina High School last week. We are going to have many of them coming back for senior awards tomorrow morning. On Thursday, the Career Center is going to be holding their awards ceremony here at the high school on our football field in the stadium at 7 o'clock. I do encourage our board members, if you are available to attend that, to join us. That'll give you a little bit of a flavor of what our graduation might look like. That is kind of their version of the Career Center graduation, and they do a nice job honoring our students, and I know I go every year. Dr. Kwolek is usually there every year. Our students and parents really enjoy seeing us there, supporting our Career Center students. And then graduation, believe it or not, is this Saturday, 5/21. It is scheduled for 11 o'clock. Board members, if you could please report here to this room at least an hour early so we can get everybody prepped and ready before we get out there. I would like to publicly say, and I'll talk to Dr. Tadona about this as well, This is our second year of doing it outside, and it is our new tradition. And we were very fortunate to have beautiful weather last year, and I am banking on beautiful weather this year. However, I think it's important to mention that we may have to work around weather, hopefully not. But if we do, we may send out a reverse call with information if there are any adjustments. We are watching the weather throughout the week. I touched base last week. We already started last week looking at the weather. As of last week, it looked like things were going to be okay. I know Mr. Ross and I were talking before the meeting, and it looks like there might be some rain on Saturday afternoon. So we'll continue to watch that. But we will be making every effort to have graduation on Saturday. If we're looking at early afternoon showers, there is the possibility of moving the graduation up an hour so we can get it in the morning before the showers move in. Or if there's morning showers, there's the possibility of moving it later in the day so we can get it in on Saturday. We will continue with graduation if it is mild sprinkles or off and on rain. We do have a lot of ponchos. I'm going to say 1,000. Am I right? Yep, at least 1,000 ponchos that we actually ordered last year that we're going to have handy just in case we need them, but we're not going to. And if the day is a complete wash, our makeup day is scheduled for Sunday. But I'm feeling pretty good that Saturday is going to be a beautiful morning. And our kids are going to walk across that stage. It's going to be a big day. The fourth thing on my agenda is June's special board meeting. We do need to have a special board meeting for personnel purposes. I did send out a communication to our board members that we were looking at June 7th at 9:30 a.m. We would just hold it over in a conference room at the board office. Mr. Chambers would still send out notification as normal for that special meeting. Again, it would be specifically for personnel purposes, and it's because the board would need to take action on for contractual reasons for the negotiated agreement with our Teachers Association. By a deadline in June. There would be no other items that I foresee at this time on the agenda. I just wanted to make sure that that date and time is going to work for anybody or everybody, and if we had to make any adjustments. We're going to need at least 3 board members present so we have a quorum.
Mr. Sable, would we be able to maybe change that until the lunchtime around noon? Would that, and how would that work that time for the other board members if we changed it to noon?
I can make earlier work, but noon's best for me personally, so.
Yeah, that noon works for me. Mr. Chambers is not available, so the board would need to appoint either myself or Dr. Kwolek as treasurer pro tempore.
Noon, okay? Okay. Is that something where we would need to take action on that this evening, or Mr. Chambers?
No, it's not actionable at all. All you need is the either the treasurer and a board member or a group of board members who want to do it, and we basically put out a notification. So
12 noon on June 7th. And then the last thing I have is just to make people aware that we have made some adjustments to a couple of our committee meeting dates, and these adjustments have been made or will be made on our website. But the policy committee, we have adjusted the time. We've moved it from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And then the finance committee meetings, We have canceled the May 18th and the October meetings. The intent with the finance is to meet less often. I would imagine that if we're in a situation where we're looking at a potential levy or bond where there's a need to meet more often, that we will meet more often. And just an FYI, thank you to Lisa. She did accumulate all the dates that you all submitted in terms of the board retreat. So I anticipate we'll get you out a specific date or dates for the board retreat in July by the end of the week here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chambers?
Hopefully mine will go much quicker, but the district bank balance decreased by $1 million in April to $76 million. This is $1.2 million below last year at this time, so that's fairly good. The general fund revenues were above last April by $3.3 million. All revenue sources except state foundation and other revenue account for this increase. General fund expenditures were above last April by $459,000. All but purchase services and supplies account for this increase. The sales tax fund balance increased to $4,043,000. The district received the final sales tax distribution for the fiscal year amounting to $1.06 million. The district spent approximately $34,000 in April, with a majority of expenditures on parking assessment and design. The rec center capital fund balance decreased by $258,000. Sorry, again, it's not up to, it decreased to $258,000. The district spent $1,600 on parking, assessment, and design. The district has received $29,546 in investment income for April. The total collected for the current fiscal year is approximately $292,000 below last year at this time. Finally, the district has a general fund true days cash estimate to be 227 days. This is down from February by 7.8 days and below last year by 10.5 days. Questions? On the board agenda tonight is also the 5-year forecast. I usually start this in one way, and I know Rob Skidmore, who was with me since my beginning here, heard it over and over again, so I'm not going to start it that way. The 5-year forecast of the Medina City School District consists of two funds, the general fund and the renewed emergency levy, which is known as the substitute levy fund. Within these two funds, there are two main sources of revenue. These sources are real property taxes and unrestricted grants and aid, which is the school foundation monies. The real property tax revenue funds provide a stable source of income as a result of passage of the substitute levy in May of 2018, with collection beginning in 2019. This levy has allowed for continuing funding of $6.6 million to the district without increasing taxes to the community. The forecast also contains an estimated increase in valuation for the upcoming county triennial update. This valuation increase allows only a small increase to our school district property tax revenue, as House Bill 920, which was passed in 1976, basically reduces the effective tax rates to the collection at the time the levy was passed. The school funding, or school foundation funding, has had numerous legislative changes over the past 12 years. Funding for public school districts has been limited at best, with only a 4.7% increase between years, or fiscal year 2014 and the end of fiscal year 2019. With the latest state budget, state legislators have increased payments to non-public community schools above what they pay public school districts on a per pupil basis. In January, the state began the implementation of the Fair School Funding Plan for public school districts. The implementation of the full plan was to take 6 years. Legislators reduced this implementation to 4 years, then decided this new school funding was not for them to hold future legislators to, and decided only to fund the first 2 years. Immediately after passage of the 2-year plan, legislators were quoted as saying they will replace this plan. The current forecast shows the implementation of the fiscal years 22 and 23 and basically holds funding stagnant throughout the remaining 3 years. The district assumes increases in expenses as the forecast moves forward. We assume personnel will remain with the district as the retirement systems have increased the years required to retire. Purchase service costs are assumed to decrease in the first year as payments to community schools and vouchers are no longer going through public school districts and being directly paid by the state. Costs for tuition, utilities are anticipated to increase, as well as supplies and material cost, with the return of inflation to the economy. If you look at line 7.020 on the forecast, it shows the combined cash balance of the general fund and the substitute levy. As can be seen, the forecast shows the yearly reduction in the ending balances as programs and services continue to be offered. With the passage of the substitute levy in May of 2018 and no cost to taxpayers, the district stated that no new funding would be requested until it is needed. This current forecast shows the district estimates that it will not need additional funding through an operating levy until possibly the 24-25 school year. The district is continuously reviewing cost-saving measures in an effort to keep the request for additional funds through an operating levy to the 24-25 fiscal year. It is important to note that if changes occur, such as changes in the state's Fair School Funding Plan or a replacement to this funding plan, the 5-year forecast and any additional cost-saving measures will need to be further reviewed. This forecast is made based upon current information and a number of assumptions, and is only good the day it is created. In November, I compared the 5-year forecast to a game of cornhole, moving the boards away from each other to show the difficulty of predicting out 5 years. With the state legislators putting more taxpayer money per student into non-public, for-profit community schools, public school districts throughout Ohio will have to look to their taxpayers for more support. As inflation continues, more money will be needed to obtain the same services, supplies, and materials. History of revenues and expenditures can provide a guide on forecasting, but just as this past year has shown, there are plenty of outside factors that will have major impacts on even the best forecast. Thank you. And finally, are there any questions on the 5-year forecast?
No, just a comment. So the last new money request from the district was in 2013. So when you say 24, 25, that's 11 going out, that would be 11 years since the last request for new money.
Well, if the money's coming in 25, it's actually going to be a total of 11 tax years, yes.
11 tax years.
Because we collected from 2013, the vote went in 2013 and it was approved, and we collected starting January of 14.
Mr. Chambers, as you pointed out in line 7.020, our cash reserve balance is decreasing, which is what we as a district have intended. Remind me, and maybe for the benefit of the new board members, is there a specific percentage of expenditures we like to have that reserve balance at? Or because we can say, well, in 25, there still is a balance. We're not below that yet, but I know that that's not, we would like to have a balance higher than that. So is there a threshold we would like to maintain that at?
In all honesty, there's no threshold. I mean, I know school districts that have balances that are above 70% of their estimated expenditures. I know school districts, you could go up to Brunswick, that had less than 10% at one point for their expenditures. They were looking for monies, obviously. But we, as a collective here, the past board members, Aaron, myself, we felt that once we got to the $20 million plateau, that we should be looking to go out for more money. So.
Thank you. I also wanted to just make sure the new board members know that when you see this coming up here as an action item, our goal as a board is to approve that the forecast is completed. Correct, Mr. Chambers?
This is considered the board's forecast, so yes, the goal is that the forecast is completed. It has to be completed in November and May of every year. But if there is an area in the forecast that you don't wish to have and wish to change, that could always be done here anytime during the year.
Thank you.
And finally, there are, on the board agenda are temporary appropriations. Temporary appropriations are used by school districts to basically start the year out before the permanent appropriations are approved in September. What this allows for is not only work to be completed throughout the summer, but it also allows our buildings to order items and get those items in before they come back in come August. So you could see the temporary appropriations, most of them are slight increases. You do have a decrease, if I recall, it's here, gosh, where did I have a decrease? Oh, yes. We had small decreases. Let's see. I know it's around here somewhere. I was so happy when I found it. We had a slight decrease in
Uniform school
uniform school supplies. Thank you very much. These monies, the uniform school supplies, are the monies that we use. We charge fees to the students, and we use those monies to buy the supplies that they use throughout the year. Most of the increases that you see are based on the current year's appropriations. We did not look back to last year's temporary appropriations, as it would be basically useless for the upcoming year. So we're using a lot of these are current years. You'll also notice that I did not put any of the title funds on there. That is because with the title funds, those are dependent on students itself, numbers of students, and the abilities of the students itself. So we're not using those at all. We will not appropriate those till the permanent appropriations come through. Questions?
Thank you. Board communication, any board member have anything they'd like to share?
I've got a couple of things. I got to attend the last two band concerts this year. The concert bands, the 4 concert bands from here at the high school. It was nice to see there was, I think, 39 seniors, and they recognized all the seniors and what they were going on to do. Quite a few engineers, a couple educators in there from the bands, and of course there was one young man going to the military academy at West Point, Ron's alma mater, so that was kind of exciting. Also got to see the jazz bands. Phenomenal instrumentalists in the district. We're so lucky with Mr. Locker, Miss Blasco, and Miss Snide. They have just great program and really phenomenal students. They get to perform. A lot of people there, so that was nice to see. I didn't get to see Showtime this weekend, but my wife went and was just blown away by Showtime. I was out and about with a scout troop this weekend, so I didn't get to see Showtime, but she thoroughly enjoyed it, and I kind of wish I was around to go see it. But I did want to mention that. Also, I was here for after prom till very, very early Sunday morning, helping with after prom. And the district's very lucky. There was a lot of people involved with after prom. I can't even imagine the number. I'm going to try and find out, but there was a lot of donations from the community for baskets, and something like 147 baskets that were given away at after prom. They had a lot of different activities for the kids. Mechanical bull, I hear, was popular. They had a big racing bouncy house, and then they had the big inflatable hamster balls where the kids get in and run into each other. Temporary tattoos. We had RC car races, and then they just had a huge spread of food. So a lot of kids came through, so that was a lot of fun. That's about it. So.
I just wanted to continue my appreciation for our staff. I mean, just an unbelievable group of people, and we've been going around to the buildings throughout the spring, recognizing certain staff members for their hard work, and some of them have really just blows you away of what they accomplish in the classroom and for our district. And it's evident tonight with Dr. Qualick setting such a great example for the staff as our assistant superintendent, and then receiving the leading the way award. So just want to continue to thank our staff. And then you saw what Justin Brantner did with his class, his anatomy class, when he raised that money with the students. So just an amazing group of people that we have here at Medina City Schools, and proud of every one of our staff members. And I just want to wish you all, hope you have a great summer break, because we probably won't see you until after the last day. The other thing I wanted to mention was congratulate all the kids. I think it was after the last meeting, some of the kids were inducted into the National Honor Society. I think Jean and I were there, and these kids worked really hard, and it's really truly an honor to be inducted into the National Honor Society. So really proud of those kids and all their hard work, and congratulations to them. And congratulations to all of our seniors graduating on Saturday. And can't wait for that. That's like our Super Bowl of why we're here. And I just want to shout out to our girls track and field team. The girls won. If I got to say this right. The boys were third in the Greater Cleveland Conference. Okay, third. And the girls won it. Won big. Congratulations to both boys and girls, and the girls for winning. And then they continue on to districts this week. So congrats to that. Looking forward to this week. Thank you.
Go ahead, Joe.
So a couple things that I wanted to say real quick. First off, a couple of congratulations. First, congratulations to our May Students of the Month. It's always awesome to see that. And then congratulations to our seniors. We're all proud of you. I know there's teachers that have watched you come through the whole district that, they see you're graduating and they're like, oh, I remember when they were in kindergarten, or whatever it may be. And it's always funny, because I remember when I graduated, I was like, yeah, that was my kindergarten teacher, but like I remember nothing about kindergarten, but my kindergarten teacher could tell you every single thing that I did every day I was there. So congratulations, seniors. We're proud of you. We're excited to see what you're going to do, take on the world, whether you go to college or you go to a trade school or you're jumping right into a career yourself. I think any route that you go, it's absolutely fantastic. And I wanted to make sure that I know other board members had recognized you guys, but I wanted to make sure that I put a a little recognition there for our seniors, because it is a big deal. Then kind of jointly, congratulations to, and I know I'm saying this prematurely, but the rest of our students and our staff. I know that there's a couple more days left, but I consider this basically the end. There's light at the end of the tunnel, and congratulations. It's so amazing to see the education system and to see how our teachers have adapted over the last couple years and have even adapted in the classroom, like we saw with the $1,000 donation to St. Jude's. I know on the curriculum committee, we've had a couple instances where we were told about teachers that did just an extraordinary way to take just basic learning and kind of put it in the hands of the students and let them explore a little more rather than necessarily being sitting in a classroom and just reading through a book. So that's spectacular. Thank you, both of you. Congratulations to both of you also. And then a couple dates that I wanted to throw out there that I had seen come across my Facebook, but I feel like this is a good platform to shout them out. End of the year dance party, May 26th on the square, 5 to 7. And don't forget, May 26th, that's the last day of school, early release. So nightmare for parents, but celebratory for students. And then May 20th, Strings in the Park, noon to 1 on the square also. And I also wanted to say, I know we had talked about it in our curriculum meeting, the summer camp, summer experiences. I know it really was a big thing that took off with our elementary school, and I'm excited to see kind of the feedback that we get from that and where that goes, things that some of our students might learn there, and just a new refreshing take on school in the middle of the summer. I think it's going to be really good, and I'm actually jealous because I want to go to some of them. And finally, I want to say, I know that we have a lot of our students that are helping out and participating in youth camps and other sports programs. I want to say you guys are doing a great job. I've seen a couple of them. My son is in soccer, the Little Bees soccer, and I think there's 5 or 6 high school students that are helping out there. You guys, I notice you. You're doing fantastic. Really patient with the kids. I guess it's easier to be patient with little kids when they're not your kids also, because about halfway through soccer practice, I'm pulling my hair out because my kid's laying on the ground. But hey, congrats to you guys, and you guys, you deserve some recognition, not just the soccer, but all of our youth camps that are out there.
The Dynasty Schools Foundation wrapped up one of their last of 4 fundraisers almost in a row. They did the Run for Fun, and as normal, it rained, but they did have a good turnout, including kids from the middle school. I went to see the Matilda, the Claggett musical. The kids were very entertaining, and it was nice to, get to see younger kids up on stage, and anything didn't really seem to fluster them, even sometimes when the music got a little bit louder than them, but they just kept right on. So far this spring, our baseball team is the Greater Cleveland Conference champions, and they've had a no-hitter and a perfect game. Our pitching staff, so that is amazing because, that doesn't happen very often, even in the big leagues. And besides the girls track, the girls lacrosse team won the GCC also. I would like to thank the staff and the principals. I mean, we get the principals' newsletters once a month, and amazing work that you do, great pictures. I love that. Get to see some of the kids. And I will guarantee that on Friday that there will be no rain for the orchestra. So all of the community, come on out, bring your lunch, or go to one of the local establishments and come up and watch amazing kids in the orchestra. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Policy Committee did not meet this month, just because we have the second reading of our policies on for this agenda. We'll be meeting in June. As Joe mentioned, Curriculum Committee just recently met and discussed the upcoming summer enrichment camp, as well as a book study that the Curriculum Committee is going to be doing. And I think there's books coming for the other board members as well, so that you can also participate in that. It's a very exciting book, and the author will be coming in the fall, which is August, but it's fall, for the back to school day for the staff. So you can look for that. Tina will get you guys that book so you can read it as well. This is a time of year where, yeah, there's a lot going on. I know probably everyone's kind of tired and ready to wrap it up and get ready for summer, but it's been nice to see the celebrations we've been able to have. I did attend Showtime, which was just fantastic. And the high school has a great campus in that you can go to the PAC for Showtime and then run behind the high school and watch baseball, softball, and lacrosse or rugby right at the stadium. There's so much going on right in that area, and it's just been a really exciting time for everyone. So I just wish everyone the best of luck wrapping up the year and look forward to graduation this weekend. Thank you. Okay. We've reached the time in our agenda for public participation. And it does not appear that anyone has signed in, so if everyone's okay with that, I will waive the reading of the rules for public participation, and we will move on to the treasurer's action items.
Yes, if it pleases the board, item number 1, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the April 2022 Treasurers Report. Item number 2, it's recommended the Board of Education approve the following supplemental to the 21-22 permanent appropriations. These are basically end-of-the-year changes that need to be made throughout the buildings itself. Item number 3, it's recommended the Board of Education approve the May 2022 5-year forecast and notes to comply with the State of Ohio Department of Education requirement. And finally, item number 4, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the temporary appropriations for the 22-23 school year.
Make a motion to approve the treasurer's action items.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions regarding these action items? Mr. Chambers, I would just like to thank you for your hard work with this. I know there's been some challenges with the new system that's been implemented and it hasn't made things as seamless as you would like them to be, so we appreciate you getting these to us in such a timely fashion.
I try. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll second that.
No other questions or comments? You may call roll, please.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, superintendent action items.
Number 1 is donations. It's recommended the Board of Education accept the following donations. It amazes me every single month the amount of donations we have to our maker spaces. I think it's a real example of the amount of support we have from our parents and community in regards to the direction we're heading with our education and academics for 21st century. In addition, it's important to point out the donations that our students are making back to community organizations. In addition to Dr. Bratner's science class, we also have a donation to Medina County Children's Center from Student Council, as well as a donation to St. Jude from Key Club as well. We have a slew of recommendations on here tonight for service agreements, which is normal this time of year. You're going to see many service agreements as well as personnel items as we are getting ready for the 22-23 school year. It's a very busy time of year for us. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreements. Most of these are regular contracts that we recommend to the board on an annual basis. Most of them are for pupil services and special education services. per student's IEPs. There are a few of these on here I would like to specifically point out. The two for Juvenile Detention Center. We are responsible for the Juvenile Detention Center educational program in the county, which means we hire and evaluate the teachers for the Juvenile Detention Center. We do charge per student for the attendance there, and we are reimbursed from other districts in the county when their children attend the Juvenile Detention Center as well. So that is a reimbursement program. Ripco Studios, we are looking at trying a new photography company this coming school year. So we are looking forward to a new partnership with Ripco Studios. And then Sterling Paper Company, I wanted to point this one out because paper has been a huge challenge this past school year. We all know that the costs of items have been increasing with inflation. Paper has particularly been an issue, and it's something that we are looking to address as we move forward. Our copiers in the district do give us the ability to monitor the amount of copies that are being made, and I can tell you that a goal of mine is to reduce our paper usage coming into our upcoming school year, not only to save trees, but also from a cost savings perspective. And I think this is even more important now that we are a one-to-one district in terms of technology for our students. So working with our curriculum as well as our technology department in transitioning to the utilization of our Chromebooks and things like that in situations where we may have made copies in the past, which sounds simple, but it's not, because it's not just doing a worksheet on a Chromebook, because we want to get away from worksheets. It's doing other interactive activities on the Chromebooks. But that is our goal moving forward. Policies for consideration, a second reading. So these were presented for our first reading at our last meeting. The following bylaws and policies are being presented for a second reading per board policy. It is recommended that the Board of Education adopt the following policies. We have several field trips on the agenda as well, which have been reviewed and recommended by Dr. Kwolek. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following overnight field trips in compliance with Policy 2340. The majority of these are athletic field trips for over the summer. The first three of these are, as a matter of fact, for summer camps. Then we have a cross-country meet that's already scheduled for next school year in the fall. It's important to point out the Washington, D.C. trip, and I'm hoping this will make many people happy, because I know it's been very frustrating that our students have not been able to go on the D.C. trip the last few years. But we are getting those on the calendar for the upcoming year. The first one is for AI Route, which is being planned for November 2nd through the 4th. Claggett is not on here, but it will be, so don't sweat. We will have Claggett on here. Claggett typically goes in the springtime, so they're still in the process of working through scheduling and planning that with the touring company. So Claggett's is up and coming. We wanted to make sure we got routes secured. So I'm recommending that tonight. We have a resolution to increase meal prices. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following increase in lunch prices commencing with the 22-23 school year. A couple things I would like to point out here. The first is that our students have been receiving free lunches throughout the pandemic due to reimbursements, due to federal grants and funds. We do not anticipate that those same grants and funds are going to be available next school year. It's going to be important that we communicate as we head into the fall with our parents that that will be a change. So lunch fees will be going back into place for next school year as they were pre-pandemic. Since the pandemic, again, as Mr. Chambers discussed, we've all been dealing with inflation. That's something that has definitely impacted food services, and we need to address that in lunch prices. So we're looking at a quarter increase in the lunch prices across the board. This is actually the first increase in approximately 4 years. I do want to point out that breakfast is on here as well. The breakfast price was actually $2.50 prior to the pandemic. However, this item did not land onto the board agenda because of the pandemic. So I want to make sure that that is on here for board approval. Number 6 is a resolution to award a bid for district paving. And we actually have several, couple bids on here. It is recommended that the Board of Education adopt the resolution to award a contract to Ohio Paving and Construction Company for the 22 District Paving Improvements Program in the amount of $609,780,000. This amount includes a section of the Medina Community Recreation Center lot at a cost of $88,976,000, which is a split cost between the City of Medina and the Medina City School District. The second is to award a bid for the Medina City School District's tennis court replacement project. It is recommended that the Board of Education adopt the resolution to award the bid for the Medina City School District's tennis court replacement project to Cunningham Paving Company in the amount of $404,094,000. With these two resolutions, first, I would like to point out that these did come onto the agenda a little bit later. This is because these bids came in late last week, and they also came in above what we were anticipating. Again, this is largely due to inflation and the increase of costs in order to complete these projects. Typically, we would wait until next month to put these on. However, these are projects we would like to get completed this summer. Contracting with pavers for summer work can be quite a challenge, and that's why I authorized for these to go onto the agenda for this evening, and why I'm recommending them tonight. The bid for the tennis courts, this is a project that we have actually been delaying for several years. We did do half of the tennis courts in 2019. When we did the first half of the tennis courts, our intent was to resurface all of the tennis courts. When they removed the top coat on the tennis courts, they found that there was a lot of drainage issues underneath the courts that needed to be addressed, which more than doubled the costs of the repairs. So at that time, we were not able to do all of the courts. The money that we had planned on using on all the courts was used to do half the courts. So we've been delaying doing the second half. So this is actually to complete that project that we began in 2019. Stipend payments. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the stipend payments to Kelly Miller and Chantel Patru in the amount of $100 each for serving as cooperating teachers for Capital University student during the fall of '21. This may look familiar because we had a similar recommendation on the agenda last month. Last month I made a recommendation. It was actually to provide them with the opportunity to get free credit hours, earn free credit hours through the university. These teachers had the opportunity to either accept a stipend or credit hours, and they have selected the stipend. So I am coming back to recommend the stipend to the board. And then personnel, like I had mentioned at the top, we're going to have long lists of personnel here as we get closer to the school year. This is the busiest time of year, or close to it, for Mr. Shields. But it is recommended to the Board of Education to approve the following personnel recommendations pending completion of all requirements per the Director of Human Resources. A few of these I do want to point out. The first is Amanda Dodez. She is being recommended as the preschool supervisor at Helping Hands Preschool. This used to be a part-time position, and we are looking at putting her in the position as a full-time position. We are expanding the preschool program. We are required to offer more preschool programming because of new state mandates. We have been working over the course of the past year to make adjustments in terms of the offerings within the preschool program to ensure that we are meeting state mandates. This is going to cost the district additional money. It is what's best for kids, though. Preschool, it is shown research-wise that the more kids that participate in preschool are more successful in school overall. Just my opinion, but I think it's a matter of time, probably not in my career, but where preschool is probably going to be public for all students eventually. The second one is Ryan O'Cole. I am excited to recommend Ryan for the district-wide business manager effective August 1st. And August 1st is a little bit of a joke because he's already doing many parts of that job, including his presentation tonight with the strategic plan. I know he's already been working on making that transition. Ryan has served the last 6 years, I can't believe it's been 6 years already, 5-6 years, as our Director of Technology. Since then, he has earned his license in business management and has gone through a multiple round process with a committee of staff members as well as administrators, and has earned the position of business manager for the district. So he'll be transitioning into his new role, and I anticipate we'll be posting his technology position within the next week. And we're actually looking at making a slight adjustment to his position and calling it Director of Technology and Innovation, where they'll be working quite a bit with Tina within the curriculum department. And I want to thank Ryan for his work within the technology department. Really done quite a makeover in regards to our technology across the district. In regards to getting things in line. And it's one of those situations where, and I know sometimes it's hard, but sometimes you have to spend money to save money. And Ryan was definitely one of those situations. He might be Mr. Chambers' favorite administrator, because every time we go over budgeting, he seems to have places where he can find areas to make cutbacks. So he set the bar pretty high going into business. The other things on here I want to point out is we do have our administrator contracts on here for recommendation. Again, these are only the administrators that are up for contract renewal. In addition, we have our prevention coordinators. I am recommending them for 2-year contracts this year. In the past, we have recommended them for 1-year contracts only. That's because they were funded through grants. We took them on as an expense, I want to say 3 years ago. I believe it's appropriate at this time to offer them multi-year contracts for the work that they do. We used to only offer them 1-year contracts in case we no longer received the grant. We had made the decision 3 years ago that the work they were doing was important enough that we were going to take that expense on as a district. I am glad we did, because since then we've had the pandemic, and the work that they're doing is so important because they're working with the mental health and wellness of our students. People like Ron Blue are just so valuable to our students and our staff with what they do. I also would like to take a moment to recognize Kathleen Ashcroft. She's been serving as associate principal at Claggett Middle School the past year. Before that, she served as a part-time administrator overseeing our preschool program. And she is going back into retirement. And I want to mention her because she is somebody from my past who worked with me in a previous district and came in to help us out here in Medina when we needed a little bit of assistance with filling some holes administratively. And I know she's looking forward to, I think, kicking back a little bit and getting back into retirement. Certificate contract renewals. These are not listed directly here on the agenda, but it is in an attachment which is available for public view. This is all of our teachers that are up for contract renewal, as well as teachers that are being recommended that are eligible for tenure. All of these teachers, especially the teachers that are being recommended for tenure, have met all the requirements per the evaluations for the tenure. Certificate appointments. We already do have some of our new hires. I do like to, as much as I can, to sit down and just meet the people I'm going to be recommending to the board. Our HR department does an outstanding job with hiring, so I have a lot of confidence in what they do, but it's nice to put a face with a name before I'm recommending them to the board, or to have Dr. Qualick have the opportunity to do that. And I can say we've got some quality people on this list tonight that I'm able to recommend to you. And at this time, and Judy's been waiting long enough.
I got 3 other retirees.
He's got 3 other first. She's going to make you wait longer. I'm going to invite Jim up to talk about our retirees, but we do have a special one tonight.
Yeah, we sure do have a special one tonight. They're all very special. This is a great group of retirees, and it's always bittersweet, as I say. Just I'm happy for these retirees, but we're going to miss them because they are really top-notch. In fact, 2 of ours tonight were DSA winners, which tells you the quality. Another one's a National Board Certified teacher. I'm going to start with Roberta Gangle. She's a teacher who's retiring from Wade Elementary School. She has 27 years of service to Medina City Schools, spent many more years as a parent and a volunteer before teaching here. She lived right next door to Canavan. I always told her she had the best commute of anybody of all of our employees because she literally, her yard backed up to Canavan. She worked at Canavan for 7 years as a 4th and a 5th grade teacher. Then she went to Blake when it opened, 8 years there as a 2nd and 3rd grade teacher, and then she spent the last 12 years at Wade Elementary as both reading intervention, 2nd, 3rd grade, 4th grade. I always say if you're going to open a school, Roberta's the person you want to have because she can do it all. And both Kathy Wetta and Cindy Grice agreed because they both hired her as soon as they had to staff a new building. I did mention that Roberta is also a National Board Certified teacher, which is the most respected professional designation in education. It's an incredibly grueling process to be National Board Certified. You do all kinds of projects, you're tested, you're peer reviewed, and Roberta was one of our first National Board Certified teachers. I have a feeling what Roberta will be doing a lot of in retirement is, I always say, she is the female Ron Ross of our district because Roberta is the only person I know that can run as much as Ron. She's been in the Boston Marathon 8 times. She spends almost every morning herself and another one of our elementary teachers. They run the streets of Medina very early in the morning, kind of figuring out the world, as they tell me, and getting everything worked out. But Roberta's moving up to Lake Erie, but Ron, it should be easy. You 2 could meet halfway, I think, and be fine with the distance. Wouldn't be any big deal for either one of you. But we wish Roberta well and thank her for 27 years. On the sports staff side, I want to highlight Etzel Green. Etzel is retiring with 21 years of service to Medina City Schools as a building custodian. Etzel has an interesting story. He worked in the coal mines of West Virginia, and his sister Jeannie Lettner, who's one of our all-time great custodians, talked him into coming up here and working as a custodian. And he told me when we met a couple weeks ago that was the best decision, and he probably should have started listening to his sister much younger in life, because he said it was truly one of his best jobs, and was very thankful he got to work in Medina. 14 years at the high school and the last 7 years at Ella Canavan. And I know he's just such a kind, gentle man, and the teachers over there at Canavan just love him. They're going to miss him dearly at Canavan. Our other retiree on the sports staff side tonight is Tina Wells. She has worked 22 years in our food service department. She started as server at Medina High School for 3 years. In the last 19 years, she's been a cook, 14 at Medina High School, the last 5 years at Claggett. In 2018, she received the Distinguished Service Award. I was talking to her cafeteria manager today. She said, Jim, I just want you to know it's going to take 2 people to replace Tina. So don't just hire 1 for me. Make sure you get me 2, because that's how great Tina was. And Tina's going to spend a lot of time with her husband, who's a Medina City Schools retiree. He retired a couple years as a custodian. I saw him a couple weeks ago. I ran into him. I said, wow, this is going to be great. Your wife's going to be home. And he said, sign me up for subbing, because I think it'd be easier to come back and sub than all the jobs that he said he's had a good 2 years here ahead of her, but he might be helping me out. I said, we'd take him back any day as well. Okay, the main event. I want you to all take yourselves back to 1977. That is not a mistake, 1977. I think Mr. Nichols probably was not even born yet. I should have said one of the board members wasn't even born yet. I was a student at Ella Canavan Elementary School. Jean, you were probably, your 3rd year of teaching at Medina High School in 1977? And Judy Baker started working at Medina City Schools as a crossing guard at Lafayette and Circle Drive in the fall. It didn't take long. Judy was seeing the buses drive by as she was crossing students and said, hey, I'd like to do that. I could drive one of those buses. 45 years later, she's still driving a bus. But Rob, I don't even know if you know this. Judy told me she went to school to be a cosmetologist. She started working as a cosmetologist, and the person she worked for wouldn't let her cut hair. They made her sweep up, do everything but cut hair. And she said, well, this isn't what I signed up for. So her mother was mad at her because she went and applied for the schools. And I said, well, your mom was wrong, because 45 years later, this was definitely the job for you, Judy. But think about in 1977, Jimmy Carter was president. There's been 8 presidents since Judy started working here. There's been 8 superintendents for Medina City Schools that Judy's been here for. Gas was 62 cents a gallon in 1977, and that was probably the height of the energy crisis too there when she was here. I just think it's just amazing. Rob will tell you a lot more about her here, but I asked Judy, tell me your 2 favorite stories. I want to hear your favorite family story while you've been working here all these years, and your favorite student story. The family story, Mr. Nichols mentioned that it's a sad day for parents when school ends. Well, Judy said she had a family that every year on the first day of school, they had a huge dance party in their yard as they put their kids on the bus on the first day. They would be out there celebrating with music, dressed up, living it up. And then on the last day of school, when she'd bring the kids home, they were having a funeral mass. That they were so sad that Judy was bringing them back after driving them 184 days that school year. And then I asked her, what about your favorite student story? And she said, one time I had either a 7th and 8th grader, she said, and he tried to hide under the seat of the bus, and he actually got himself stuck, and they could not get him off there. I don't know if you know that one either, Rob. I'm trying not to get you in trouble here, Judy. When I met with Judy, she said of all the things she's done here, I think it's 36 years she's been on this most current route. Yep. And you think about in all those years, she's had students, then children of students, and now grandchildren of students. The other thing she told me, she said, Jim, of all the things I haven't done in my 45 years here is attend a school board meeting from start to finish. Well, Judy, your bucket list is complete for Medina City Schools, so you got to. But I'm going to have Rob and Judy come up. Judy is a DSA winner. She is one of the most positive, upbeat, wonderful people you could ever meet. She's not even positive she wants to retire. So if you guys want to reject this tonight too, Rob and I would very much be in favor of that. But and then I got to put a plug in for your husband too, because he worked at the hospital. Was it 42 years at Medina Hospital? 43. So this family has the best work ethic in all of the county, I think. I'm in awe of Judy, of what she does and how she stays positive every day and how good she is at her job and what a wonderful person she is. So Rob and Judy, you come up, and Rob, you guys can tell your stories now too, but I didn't want this moment to pass without getting to sing the praises of Judy Baker.
Well, I don't know how many stories we're going to tell, but as Jim said, it's 1977, and Judy's joining the staff here at Medina City Schools. And if you think about where you all were at in 1977, or if you were even here then, it's been a long time behind the wheel of a bus. Once in a lifetime for me to come across someone like Judy. I admire her. She runs a very well regimented bus. And I know if Judy comes in and says, we need to talk, then I set things aside because there's really an issue. Because she handles it. The kids love her, the parents love her. And I think coworkers, everybody that she comes in contact with, loves this lady, myself included. She's been fantastic to work with. Gonna miss her. And we're still trying to keep her, like Jim said. We talked a little bit about subbing today, and she didn't say no, so things are looking up. But think about 45 years in a school bus. She's been to the moon and back 1.5 times. She's been around the world 30 times. And never left the boundaries of our district. She's had many of you on buses, field trips. I'm sure Jim was, maybe you have some stories about Jim when he rode, but just fantastic, and can't say enough. There's a story, and she can tell it if she'd like, something about Target and some bus keys that went missing. But that's all I'm allowed to say. So, Judy, congratulations.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to stay. And,
I don't know if I can quit cold turkey or not, so I might.
and you're welcome to sub. I told you you can do whatever you want. So, but, she has done a fantastic job for this district. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Say a few words? No?
I just want to say thank you. Thanks, everybody.
She did tell me a story about having to come up to meet with a superintendent early on in her career. Something about a water balloon fight on a bus that she didn't even participate in, but
Chickened out.
she got called in anyway, and she said, my goal was to never go back there again.
I kept it. No, I think I'm good. Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Congratulations, Judy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I might miss you guys. My goodness. I think I can quit now.
Good, it worked.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful. Gosh. Thank you.
I can't top that, so I think I'll end it there.
That was a great way to end it. And Judy, I'm glad that you were able to attend your first and perhaps final board meeting from start to finish. Thank you. And congratulations on your retirement. Thank you for all your years of service. Okay, may I have a motion and a second to approve the superintendent's action items?
Make a motion to approve superintendent's action items?
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Are there any questions or comments regarding these items?
I have one question. What is constitutes a deluxe meal that we charge an extra 25 cents for lunch? I mean, I'm just curious.
I can tell you because my children usually buy them.
Oh, okay.
It's a hamburger or hot dog. It's not the usual cook's choice
Oh,
lunch. It's,
and so that, a hamburger and a hot dog is considered deluxe? Wow, okay. Just
I think it's based on popularity, perhaps.
Okay, all right. I just was curious.
I think it has to do with the state reimbursement for the food
Okay.
and what's mandated to be in that meal.
I have one question. This is actually for Judy. What was your bus route, so I know?
Route 3, Chippewa Road, Ryan Road, well, not anymore, but Cobblestone, Cobblefield.
Oh, it's over my neck of the woods. It's over my neck of the woods.
Town, yep. But through the years, I've been all over. Paradise, I mean, I don't think there's one road south of town I haven't been on, or development. Whenever there was a new development, I was in it. I started a lot of them.
Good for you. Thank you very much.
They talk about redistricting, she has seen it all.
I would just like to say, when everybody else had to envision where they were in 1977, my dad graduated high school in 1980, so I was nowhere close to even a thought.
Mr. Sable, I do have a couple of questions regarding the service agreements. The first, Learning Ally, when I reviewed the information behind that, it looks like that's a new contract perhaps? No? Okay, is that an online and is that online contract?
Yeah, I'm actually going to invite Mrs. Pizetka up to answer your questions.
Thank you.
Learning Ally is a renewal contract. We have had it in the past. They have just changed their structure for how they are billing districts. Previously, we have purchased seats for it. Now they've changed their structure where they are offering it building-wide and district-wide and doing a breakdown of looking at providing it only for specific buildings. It really didn't make any sense, and really there wasn't much of a cost savings. It made the most sense to just purchase it district-wide. With the new dyslexia legislation that's coming through, we're going to have more students that are going to require Learning Allies, so it was just an investment that what made the most sense. For our students that are currently utilizing it, we don't have the option to currently or continue to buy those seats anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And then while you're up there,
Sure.
my second question was for the Medina County Board of Developmental Disabilities. That one also looks like it's on a new payment structure.
It's not. It's an increase. And it's on a 5-year contract, and this is a 20% increase for this next year is what's being proposed.
But we're only paying for the one year at a time, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing none, Mr. Chambers, would you call roll, please?
Mr. Ross? Aye. Mr. West?
Aye.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Ms. Parkers?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd like to receive a motion to go into executive session to consider the employment, dismissal, discipline, or compensation of a public employee or official, and for the preparation for conducting or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
Second.
Would you make a first for me, please?
I'll make a first on that.
Thank you, Mr. West.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Any questions or comments? Mr. Chambers?
Yes, Mr. West?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Ms. Parkers?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for coming this evening. It's still daylight out and doesn't look like it's raining, so hopefully everyone can enjoy the weather. We do not anticipate taking any action after executive session. Thank you.